Kick and chase by Mullins. Kick and chase again by Mullins. It'll be a miracle. Oh, it is a miracle. Fafita tries to crash his way over. He does. Fafita got the ball over the line.
Hunter's kick is over the sideline for a 40-20.
Yeah, g'day champions and welcome to 40-20 Sports. Today we're going to be running over our Supercoach cheapies. So we're looking at guys that are going to make an impact throughout the year that are about 350k or less. Got to have these guys on your side. These are the guys that are going to generate us some cash. There's a couple of guys in here that I probably don't think are going to get a start for round one that people are hoping will. So we'll run through a bit of that. But before we start off, we are running a league code. The code for that is 726638. 40-20 Sports, jump on it. We've got shirts, we've got stickers, hats coming, stubby coolers, all that sort of action. Whoever gets the chockies there, they're going to get a bit of a merch pack. We're going to be talking about that throughout the year. So a bit of fun, bit of something to follow. And yeah, so if you could jump onto that, that'd be awesome. The more people we get engaged with that, the better, obviously. Now, we'll start off cheapies, our number one cheapie off the cab rank at the start. We're going to go Xavier Savage, 350k. Seems to have the wing spot for round one, but I'm a little bit worried about the whole action of Seb Chris coming back. We've got Rapana going to fullback. Schiller is trialling really hard in the centre spot there, so I'm a bit unsure of where Xavier Savage fits when all that action sort of levels out in rounds 2, 3, 4. I would have loved him to play fullback. I think if he got the fullback spot, he'd be an awesome cheapie for Supercoach owners. But at the moment, starting on the wing, his base was a little bit down. He was electric against the Eels with some of his runs. But I just think if he's a guy that's going to play on the wing, he only went for about 7 or 8 runs against the trial against Parramatta there. I'm a little bit concerned about these players coming back. I think he might be a little bit of a trap being 350k. He might be a little bit hard to downgrade to someone if he does get kicked out of the side without getting a price rise. So yeah, just one to keep an option, but one to keep an eye on when all these players come back for the Raiders there in that back line. The next one, we've got Bronson Jerry, 345k CTW. Looks awesome in the trials. He's been trialling really, really well. He's been super busy against the Storm in the round one trials. He got a try, set up another try. Looked really, really powerful with his ball running. Defensively looked quite good as well. He's got massive base. So from what we've got as our sample size at the moment, I think the first game he ran for 160 metres. The second trial there, he's gone for 21 runs for 171 metres. So he's super busy, getting super involved, obviously trying to impress Serraldo there to try and get a spot. The only issue with that back line is Jacob Carraz hasn't trialled yet. Wilson on the wing has trialled really, really well, and they sort of trusted him last year on the wing, and Carraz went the centres. It'll just be interesting to see what happens there with Carraz coming back, whether they go for Carraz in the centres, Wilson on the wing, or Jerry in the centres, Carraz on the wing. So I like him if Bronson gets that spot there in the centres at the Dogs. With that work rate, I think he's every bit of chance of being into my side and being a very playable option for round one. Next one we're going to go down to is Morgan Smithies in our 2RF. He is 345k. All reports he has a massive motor. He will tackle all day, run all day. The Super League Grand Final there last year, he had 55 tackles, 19 runs, and I'm pretty sure he only played about 70 minutes, maybe just shy of that. That's a massive motor, massive base. There is an issue with the Raiders having such a stacked forward pack. They've got all these guys coming through like the Trey Moonies, Adam Mariota, Sami Saulo, then the old heads of Tarpanay and Papali'i. Will he get enough minutes to be able to do that? I'm unsure, but the trial this week will be a good little yardstick for him. Tarpanay isn't there though, so still some questions, but if he plays 40 to 50 minutes and he still makes tackles like that, I'm more than happy to have him in my side, in my playing 17. 345k, I think he'll only make you money even if you don't play him in your 17. The next guy we'll go down to is CHEAPIES Paul, 2RF as well, 345k. From the highlights reel we've seen, he looks like Sonny Bill reincarnated. He has got that dig into the line, big open arm, offload, off to a player. Looks like he's got a strong running game, but he's in a bit of a battle there with Dylan Lucas for what seems to be the left edge. Dylan Lucas played really well in the trials, more so against the Sharks and the Storm, but CHEAPIES Paul looked a little bit timid out there. He didn't really have anything of an offload to offer. It was his first hit out in NRL-ish standards, and against the Storm, that's always a bit of a tough ask. So I'll give him another chance. I think the Knights are better off going CHEAPIES Paul on the bench. Dylan Lucas is a bit of a dog, you know. He'll defend all day. He seems to have really good defence on that edge. Seems like a guy you would leave on there for 60 to 70 minutes. CHEAPIES Paul, if what we see from the highlights reel is correct, could come on around tired defenders, get an offload, and be used more as a bench impact forward. I think would be better for him. For Supercoach wise, that's not really awesome for us because obviously the more minutes he plays, the more attacking opportunities he would get. But I think that's how the Knights will probably run it for at least the start of the year. Next up, we've got Aiden Caesar at 345k. I was relatively keen on him, but since he looks like he's lost the kicking duties to Appy, I am less keen on him. We've seen it in years before. He does have a bit of a low base. Against the Warriors, he only had 2 or 3 runs, I think. He improved that tonight against the Dragons, but again, the attack looked quite clunky. So I'm not convinced on the Tigers in general, let alone Aiden Caesar being there. He's got the round 1 bye, which doesn't help. The other thing with these Tigers players having the round 1 bye, let's say Aiden Caesar comes out in round 2 and 3 and kills it. If you've gone a cheapie in your 5'8 position, you should be able to move him on and jump to Aiden Caesar if that's the case. So if you were to start with Aiden Caesar, you could potentially miss out on one of these guys that are a cheaper 5'8 option and not get their price rise, get stuck with Aiden Caesar, and then you're screwed for a little bit. So I think he's in a void. I think it's lucky you get a bit of a second chance dabble at him anyway. So I'd be running without him. Brendan Hands, 342k. Looks like Lussick is getting the start over him in the trial tomorrow. I'm filming this on Saturday night, so haven't yet seen the Parramatta game, but it looks like Lussick is going to get the jump over him for now. I'm more convinced that he's behind the pecking order. A little bit what they did last year as well. Brendan Hands, they didn't really trust him. Brad Arthur didn't trust him with 80 minutes at hooker. He struggled to give him those minutes. We saw Joey Lussick come over from the Super League. He had 4 or 5 games at 80 minutes in limited games at the end of the year. So I'm leaning more towards he likes Lussick. If he does go with that 80-minute hooker role, Brad Arthur, which he said he likes, I'm more inclined to think Brendan Hands misses out completely. So watch it. I probably like Lussick a bit more than Brendan Hands as a Supercoach option anyway. He's a bit cheaper, but yeah, if Brendan Hands does get the nod at 342k, you would be mad not to go him, especially with that hookering position being so skinny. Next one, we'll go Spencer Leniu at 332k. I think he's the best impact bench player in the competition. Ivan Cleary figured it out, summed his game up personally, go in there for 30 to 35 minutes, run around like an absolute nutcase, cause havoc, and he is the best in the business at it. There's no denying that. He's won premierships doing this. He brings such energy off the bench. I struggle to see how in that Roosters forward pack he is anything but that. I think that'll be his position for this year coming anyway. I think maybe could be a bit different with Jared Waerea-Hargreaves moving on next year. But for this year, I think he'll probably have a similar role to what he's had at Penrith Panthers. If that is the case, I think he could be a bit of a trap. I think you're better off avoiding him. His highest average points scored over the last 5 years is 32, so that was last year as well. So that's incredibly low average scoring rate for him over the last couple of years. I would avoid, if possible. Roosters fans might think otherwise, but that's my take on it. I just see Spencer Leniu being so good at his job and so good at being a impact player off the bench, having that awesome impact that he does. I don't think he'll get used any other way but that. Next one, we'll go down to Jaden Brayley, very popular at hooker, 330k. He is set to miss, guaranteed, the first round with a hamstring injury. Hearing more whispers that it's likely to be more game 3 coming back, but how quickly are they going to rush this guy back? How conservative are they going to go with this guy? He is injury prone, up to the tits. Look, I think Brayley, I'm going to miss him. I think everyone should probably give him a rest, see what happens. Even when he comes back, I think there's no way he's going to be up around 70 to 80 minutes, even 60 minutes will be a stretch. He'll probably share the hooking role with Phoenix Crossland. I am probably going to leave Jaden Brayley, hopefully pick him up as a cheapie option midway through the year when, if he stays healthy, touch wood, he does stay healthy, when he gets back up to 60 minutes plus after hopefully playing a few less games and his price tag even coming more down from 330k. That's what I'm hoping for. That's my strategy with him, but we'll see how all that plays out. Next one is Tallis Duncan, 321k. Seems that Jai Arrow has got that edge spot, the right-hand edge, what it looked like in the Charity Shield. That is a massive impact, massive hit for owners. Everyone was super keen on Tallis Duncan. I was one of them. I had him penciled in as one of my backup 2RFs. So huge hit to the nuts there with Tallis Duncan. How they seemed to use him in the Charity Shield was coming on for when Cam Murray had got benched. So that's even worse, I think, because Cam Murray, as we all know, he will play 65 minutes, 60 to 65 minutes. If an injury occurs, he'll go up to 70 minutes. Does that mean Tallis Duncan only gets 10 to 15 minutes? I fucking hope not, for God's sakes. But there is a world where that can happen. I don't think Jai Arrow is going to play 80, so maybe he shares a few minutes between Jai Arrow and Cam Murray in shifting to lock and second row, but that's way too risky for me. I'm just going to leave that. There's enough money to be made in second row there that I don't need to worry about a headache of how his bench rotation and rotation with these starting guys is going to happen. Next one has come out of the blue a little bit. I didn't expect this at all, is Jamin Salmon, the weak-gutted dog, as everyone's I'm sure knows about. 317k, CTW 2RF, dual position. Getting that second row forward into your CTWs as a cheapie is a fucking gold mine. We love that stuff. Could be a perfect fit for your CTWs. I'm not looking for him in my second row forwards. Again, like I said before with Tallis, I think there is a multitude of options there in your second row forward. I would be putting this guy in my CTW from what I've seen. Looks like he's got a big output in defence. His base stats look good. As they're getting closer to the line, the Dogs, it looks like he is playing that first receiver role as lock. It looks like a lot of their attack is starting with him. Huge Isaiah Yeo vibes. He's come from Penny Panthers. Serraldo's come from the Panthers. Maybe he's going to instill that sort of ball-playing lock role that Isaiah Yeo plays in Jamin Salmon. But look, his output makes him nearly a slam dunk. The first trial, he had 11 runs, 27 tackles. That's awesome. Round 2 trials, he had 50 minutes there, 11 runs, 32 tackles. So he's mid-40s in base regardless. In the second round trial, he did score some attacking opportunities, line break assists, and another try contribution. So with that ball-playing role, being in the middle, having his hands on the ball so much, I think he's only going to improve on those attacking stats throughout the year if that is his position to hold. I'm huge on him. I think you can play him in your top 17 easy. I think you'll make a stack of cash this year if he keeps that output. Only needs 50 minutes as well. 11 runs, 32 tackles, 50 minutes. I'm huge. I'm sold. Next one is Jack Bostock, CTW 314k. Looks like he's got that left wing spot all but locked up. He is trialled there in all 3 trials now. Outside Tessie New, I believe will get that left-hand role. Jake Avarello for me is the perfect number 14, although there's a bit of competition there as well. But anyway, Jack Bostock, he is a kicking target every day of the week. He is a tall man. I think being outside O'Sullivan has a really good short kicking game. He will be looking for Bostock, I believe. I think his base may be a little bit low for wingers. He's not of the caliber of the Marzus, the Mays, the To'os, or anything like that. So don't get too wrapped up in that. But in the last 2 trials, he scored 2 tries. So I'm hoping he goes on some form of run, a try-scoring run, where he gets a couple of tries in a couple of weeks consistently, makes a good bit of cash. We sell him or we downgrade him to someone else. 314k, the price is right. I am probably not too confident in playing him in my 17, just because that base is a little bit low and you'll be hoping for attacking stats. But 314k, I'm more than happy for him to sit on my pine and get me some cash. Next up, Joey Lussick. We talked a little bit about him before. Parramatta, potentially 80 minutes there, 313k hooking roll. I think he's the man for Parramatta in the 9. Brad Arthur, like we said, has come out and said 80-minute hooker is what he is sort of into. So last year they trusted Joey Lussick with 80 minutes in the limited games that he did have. He averaged 47 points in those 80 minutes. He had 0 attacking stats in those games. He had 3 games where he had 80 minutes when he averaged 47 points. Only 1 attacking stat in those 3 games, which was a try contribution, which is only 4 points. So the attacking stats will come for Joey Lussick, I think, throughout the year. Be patient with him if you need to be patient with him. I am at 47-point average. I'm all but going to put him as my reserve hooker. I'll probably play him most weeks. I think he is our safest option for cheapie hookers, so you'd be mad not to run with him. Fletcher Baker, now he's got a really high ownership percentage. He's 311k, which is really good. People have been really high on Fletcher Baker. Doesn't look like he's going to get the starting front rower spot there. I'm worried of where his minutes are going to come from. I sort of predict that he's going to be what he was at the Roosters. Bit of impact forward, coming on 25 to 30 minutes, averaging 32 points a game. So I think he's an avoid. I don't think you'll make him much cash unless he moves into a starting front row spot, but it looks like Corey Jensen has got that all but wrapped up. Now, Kyle Flanagan we'll have a look at next. 310k, 5'8 only. From what I've seen, I think Kyle Flanagan, people are going to shoot me on this, they're going to hate me on this. Kyle Flanagan, probably the safest bet for a cheapie at 5'8. Now, I say this because his job security is locked in. He is going to be the 5'8 for them for most of the year. In the trials, he's been playing big minutes. His old boy is the coach. He's going to be in his pocket. In the Charity Shield, the other thing that I'm really impressed with has been his output in his base stats. Charity Shield, 14 runs, 17 tackles. That is immense for a 5'8. That is up there with the best. Tigers tonight, 9 runs, 19 tackles. That's just as good in my opinions. His defense seems to be improving a lot better. He's giving a lot of early ball, but when he gets down into that 20-metre zone, the last 2 games that I've seen him play, he's been sort of drawing and passing. If not, he's been taking on the line. Tonight, for 70 minutes played up against the Tigers, I know they romped him, but again, he would have scored a 49 points in Supercoach. That's perfect. That's perfect what I want Kyle Flanagan to do. Not looking for him in my starting 17, but I'm purely looking for him to be a bit of a cash grab. 80-minute games last year, he averaged 44 points. If he continues that, that's looking about 450k. That's 140k price rise. I think he can do that. I'm hoping he can do that quicker rather than later, and I can move him on or downgrade him again. The thing that excites me the most about Kyle Flanagan, apart from that he looks like he's sorted his defence out a little bit, is the edge that he's going to be working with. Again, probably not the best defensive edge, but attacking stats have got to come in this edge. He's got Jaden Sewer, Moses Sully, Ravalawa, and Sloan is floating out at the back. I can't see a world where he won't get a couple of cheap line break assists, try contributions there. So if he keeps those base stats up, the 14 runs, 17 tackles, 9 runs, 19 tackles, I think he's all but a slam dunk. With the job security, I'm more than happy to have him sit on my pine and just collect me some cash over the first couple of weeks anyway. Moving down now, we've got Ben Trbojevic at 2RF CTW. Again, another one of those jewels. We love seeing that. He is 277k, very cheap. Has that left edge all but secured for him for round 1 at the very least. Schuster not going to Vegas. Calf injury there for him. He has not even trialled. Even if Schuster does come back in round 2, and we're worried about that, we're worried about what the sort of minutes he's going to get eaten into with Ben Trbojevic, I think Schuster will come back on very limited minutes because that is a soft tissue injury and he's had it before. So I'm hoping the first month of Ben Trbojevic is high minutes, high output, and yeah, we see a good little price rise for that. Even if he goes back to being a bench spot, he's still handy there, being that dual position. But I like to think the first 4 to 5 weeks we can get a good little price rise out of him, move him on to somewhere else if he's made enough cash, and go from there. Very small sample size of him playing 80 minutes in the back row, which hopefully he'll get. There was no games last year he got 80 minutes, but 2022 he averaged 47 in 4 games that he played 80 minutes. I'm interested. KO Weeks from the Canberra Raiders, 273k. He is 5'8 fullback dual. A little bit pointless having that dual being the 5'8 fullback sort of option. There is no way you should pick KO Weeks at fullback. That should be 2 guns and forget about it. KO Weeks, I know he scored a try last week in the trial against Parramatta. I'll be very interested to see how he goes tomorrow. But only the 3 runs in that game against Parramatta, which is very, very low for him. Very, very low in general for a 5'8". We don't want to see that, like Cole Flanagan, 14 runs and 9 runs. Just the vibes on KO Weeks aren't looking good. 4 games over 70 minutes last year for him, and he's averaged 30 points. So if he averages 30 points again, he's looking at a price rise of about 30k. I'm sure he'll do better than that if he is allowed the games. Now, there is also Ethan Strange that can come into that. If the Raiders start slow, KO Weeks starts poorly, I think there's every chance that he gets dropped. Ethan Strange comes in, and then you're left with a shit fight of 273k, potentially less or potentially nothing over 300k. So, look, if you want to do the risk and you've got big raps on him and you've watched a lot of his juniors where he's killed it and you think he's going to put that into first grade, that could be this year, that could be next year, that could be never. I'm going to avoid him just because there is a fair bit of risk around his job security. Xavier Willison, 265k from the Broncos, front row forward. He gives off massive Olakawadu vibes. He was awesome in the All-Stars game. He's a big body. He's got late footwork. Carried 4 people, 3 people to the try line in his try in the All-Stars match. Another one I wouldn't have in your 17. I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes for the Broncos. There is a massive fight and juggle for positions and minutes there in their front row forward besides Payne Haas. I'm more looking at Willison. I think there'll be a good couple of games. I'm hoping earlier rather than later. I think there's a good couple of games there where he will score tries, bust the line, heaps of tackle breaks in a short amount of time, hopefully go up 100, 150k, and I'll be looking to cash him in then. Again, wouldn't have him in our starting 17, just hoping that he does get some good scores back-to-back. Price gains, move him on. Samuela Fainu, 263k. He's a 2RF. He looked really dangerous in the round 1 trial. He played very limited minutes, got sin-binned as well, so that didn't help, but he had a line break assist, few tackle busts and offload. If you left the sin bin out of his score, he would have scored a 48 in very, very limited minutes. He was a little bit more quiet tonight in the Dragons game, but that was an absolute romping. They got Rissol tonight, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Looks to me, he may or may not get a lot of minutes in this squad. It'll be interesting to see what happens once Johnny Bateman comes back, whether he gets a lock spot with Seyfarth there, or if he does move into that second row spot. If he moves into that second row spot, Samuela Fainu probably isn't an option, as he seems to be coming on in the second row. But one to watch. I think he's got massive potential. Could be one later on in the year. I've flirted with the idea of starting with him because I think if you just leave him there by the mid-year, he'll have come along in spades. Next one is Poasa Falmasili, 238k, front row forward. Looks to have the starting front row spot at the Doggies there. He started in the first 2 trials for them. Is a little bit concerning his work rate, especially in the first trial. He picked it up a little bit in the second trial. Played a lot more minutes, though, in the second trial. So, look, he's been around a couple of clubs, hasn't quite made that NRL stamp on himself. He has been in and out of first grade. I'm just really worried about his uptick in minutes. I'm not sure that they're there. It's really a toss of a coin there between him and Sam Hughes. Even though Falmasili is starting, I get the impact that Sam Hughes is probably going to get a little bit more minutes than him because he seems to have a bigger motor. If you're under the impression that you just want to go one of them and you're looking for a bit more security, you could argue that Falmasili is the one for you because he is starting. Hughes potentially moves out of the team, Falmasili onto the bench, but I'm not sure that's the case. But again, flip the coin, no one knows. So Falmasili's every bit an option. He's 238k. If you put him in your side, I fully understand it. Next one is that man we were talking about at Samuel Hughes, 238k, front row forward. Set to come off the bench for the Dogs, but please do not let that worry you. I would stick him in your side. Have a run with it. See how it goes. I'm not sure on the minutes, but the Dogs are very, very skinny with their middle forwards. First hit out in the trials, he ran for 160 metres coming off the bench, played good minutes. He was a bee's dick away from getting a try. There was an obstruction rule which brought that back. Looked good. He bends the defensive line back. Late footwork a little bit for the big man, but his defence is sound. His work rate is beautiful. We'd love to see that. He looks like a very Supercoach friendly player. I have seen some teams and some people seem to be going with the option of Sam Hughes as one of their starting front rowers and then a mid-ranger or a out-and-out gun. Probably advise against that just because we don't know exactly what his minutes are. He only had 17 minutes this week. Whether they're wrapping him in cotton wool and, he might have a little niggling injury, I'm not sure. But one to watch out. I like Samuel Hughes. He will be in my team. He could potentially be in my starting 17 as a reserve front rower, but I'm not sure. Next one wasn't really on my radar. I'm not sure how many radars he is on, but one to watch is James Schiller, 238k, CTW from the Canberra Raiders. Trialled awesome last week against the Eels. I think he's more likely than Ethan Strange to get that centre spot. I think even when Rapana and Sebastian Kris come back, I think they will mould that team a little bit around Schiller being the centre. Well, not him being their dynamic man or anything, but I think they'll do it with Schiller as centre in mind. Ricky, I think, trusts him. Last year, there was a bit of a debate between Xavier Savage and Schiller. Schiller seemed to come in for those games where there was injuries. He trusted him with that game in the semis up against Newcastle Knights up there in Newcastle. He played really well in that, really well in the trials. I think if you put his Supercoach points together, trial against the Eels would have been an 83-point average. He would have got an 83. So it'll be one to watch tomorrow, but I am looking to stick him on my bench and hope he jags a few good games together and goes up in price. Next man is that man we were talking about, Ethan Strange, 238k. He is dual 5'8 CTW. Could fit him in either if he does get a starting role. I like him more if he does get the round 1 5'8 spot over the CTW spot, over the centre spot. Just because of what I said, I think the big man there, James Schiller, Sebastian Kris, Jordan Rapana coming in. Every chance Ethan Strange moves out if KO Weeks gets that 5'8 spot. I like him. I think he's a bit of a hard-nosed half. He has a very good running game. His defence looked really well. Just needs a bit of time. We all have heard about the under 20s, I think it was, or maybe under 18s New South Wales Blues game he had where he brained it against Queensland. So he's got potential. He'll be there and abouts in the next couple of years, but probably one to watch. And I'm still a little bit sceptical on him, even if he does get a round 1 start. Now we're getting a bit cheaper now. and a bit more far-fetched, Kane Bradley. Didn't even know this guy had got signed to the Storm. He played a couple of games with the Cowboys. He has 238k CTW, signed with the Melbourne Storm. He was playing for the Brisbane Tigers in the Queensland Cup. They won the premiership there. I haven't watched much of this guy at all. I think when he started or debuted for the Cowboys, I think he scored a try, but Queensland Cup actually has a lot of stats on him, but not a lot of vision that I've seen from him. So I'm going in a bit blind with this, but from the stats, and that is basically what we base our Supercoach teams and our players off, averaged 150 metres per game over the last 10 games of the season last year. In those games, he didn't go under 100 metres in any of those games. Seems to have a massive work output. His tackles, some of the games where he was obviously playing second row, he was getting into the 30s in his tackles, so his defensive output's obviously there. His runs are there because his metres are so high. Even when he was in the forwards, he was getting good meterage. He is a tall human. He's 6'6", big body, probably needs to fill out a little bit, but if Bellier can turn anyone around, it can be this guy, and he looks quite damaging. Looks like he's held his own defensively. Wasn't really overawed with the NRL trials, so he's one to watch. If he gets a starting spot, I am happy to stick him on my bench. Probably not looking at him in my 17, but I think he'll grow in cash. Liam Henry at 238k. He's front row forward for the Penrith Panthers. Looked awesome last year running around in New South Wales Cup. I saw a couple of his games. He also played 2 games in NRL last year, so he's had a bit of a taste. Ivan's going to bring him in off the bench for the World Club Challenge. We're going to get a good little look at him next week. I think he's a gun. He has a massive motor. The only thing that's going to be an issue with Liam Henry is going to be his bench minutes. I think there's 4 front row forwards or 4 forwards that are in front of him in Leota, Fisher-Harris. You've got Eisenhuth, and then the other fella up there. So Liam Henry, I think he's a little bit back in the pecking order. I think he's probably looking at 25 to 30 minutes a game. I think there's probably better options. There's the guys from the Bulldogs there. If you wanted to run both of them, I'd probably pay up a little bit for Xavier Willison. But if all you've got to spend is 2 front row forwards on your bench at 238k, I can understand going Liam Henry. He should be there or be thereabouts. Huge motor. Hopefully he can get in between that 35-40 minutes. Then he'll start really making some cash for you. Another one, it's going to break some hearts, but it's Kyle Iro at 219k. CTW fullback. He is owned by a shitload of people, and I think that is because he's got so much hype around certain podcasts, which he should. He's an awesome fullback. He's an awesome fullback. He's an awesome footballer. He is CTW fullback in Supercoach. Dual, again, a bit like KO Weeks. Fullback, irrelevant. We're never going to pick him there, so CTW is his spot. The only issue with him is he is stuck behind that back 5 at the Sharks. The back 5 at the Sharks, they aren't going anywhere. He's not going to get a chance there if there's no injuries. Even if there is injuries, last year they went Hiroti. So he is 6th, 7th on the pecking order in these CTW positions. He's got massive raps on him. I think his tyres have just got blown up a little bit out of proportion because there's certain podcasts that really, really like him. I think it's a little bit pointless if you've got these guys that are 200k, 219k that are probably no chance of getting a first round starting spot in your team, even this early. Don't sit there and just go, I'll just put him in just in case, because what it does is it fucks with your team a little bit, makes your team think that it is better than what it actually can be, and you're better off looking at the value in these spots with the cheapies rather than having a guy that people are talking about that doesn't eventuate to play. So Kyle Iro, for me, red flags everywhere. He's stuck behind a massive backline down there at the Sharkies, so avoid him unless there is hard information there that he is going to get a spot. Next up is another heartbreaker. It's Chevy Stewart, 204k, fullback CTW. Unfortunately, looks like he is going to the bench for tomorrow's game. Shattering news. I thought first game, round one, that he was, round one of the trial, that he was every chance of getting that round one spot in fullback. Not to be by the looks of it. Looks like Rapana's going to get there. Still super young. So maybe Sticky's thinking he wants to go a bit more experience there, and then Rapana with Sebastian Chris coming back. Rapana will go to a wing spot, I believe. Chris goes to fullback, which hurts Xavier Savage, like I said. Yeah, massive news that it looks like he's going to come off the bench for this trial. Rapana looks like he's all but got the fullback spot for round one wrapped up. Chevy Stewart, heartbreaking, 204k. Get him out of your teams. Pray that there's a miracle, that Ricky has a turn of heart. But yeah, poor fella. I'm sure he thought he was going to get a crack at round one as well, unless Ricky said something to him. Our last guy we're going to run with is Viliami Fafita, 204k, front row forward, 2RF. Looked promising in the first trial in the Charity Shield there. Ben Hunt was using him quite nicely on that right-hand edge. Dual front row forward, 2RF. Bit worried about the forwards that are still to come in for the Dragons. We've got Harm Selly, Luciano Leilua, Raylan Faitala Mariner chewed up a bit of his minutes today, so we saw a little bit less of Viliami Fafita. I like the fact that he is in there and thereabouts. I hope he's in the starting 17. Hopefully he gets a bench spot for the Dragons for round one. If not, there is an argument there that you could keep him because he potentially could get a start throughout the year. You do have those 3 spots at 2RF, and he is that dual between front row forward and 2RF. I have a fair few bodies there with front row forward 2RF, so I could go without him or I could go with him. But I understand if people don't have those duals are so hard to come by this year that if you want to go with him purely because you think at some stage in the year he'll get a run and he's got those duals, I'm more than happy for people to run with that, considering there is 3 spots there that you can run with. That's about all I've got for tonight. Hopefully that gives you a bit of information of who to avoid, a bit of clarity on who you were looking at. Some people that you weren't even acknowledging and thinking that they would get a run. Hopefully now you look a little bit more into them and read up about them. So that'd be awesome. Please follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram. We have got our podcast up on Spotify there and obviously on YouTube. Please tune in. Please give us a like. Please subscribe. Jump on our Instagram. We've got a heap of cool stuff going on there. We're going to keep tabs on our league code as well. Our league code for the year is 726638. Please jump on board. Like I said, merch pack to give away to the winner. Going to keep tabs on people. We'll be mentioning people who are the highest score of the week sort of thing. So, bit of fun there. Trying to build a bit of community around this. And yeah, that's about all I got for you, legends. Thanks heaps. Take care.